You know, it fascinates me. In a country, in a society, in a world, on a planet that cares so much about the climate and the weather and climate security, and we know absolutely nothing about weather modification and the weaponization of weather. And the history is replete. Lyndon Johnson said, "He who controls the weather controls the world." This was in a 1962 speech to Congress. Zbigniew Brzezinski, national security advisor, said, quote, "Technology will make it possible to assert almost continuous surveillance over every citizen, and it may even be possible to control the weather for military purposes." This is from his book, Between Two Ages, in 1970. In the U.S. Senate Committee report on weather modification, the quote is, "Weather modification will become a part of national defense. It could be used to destabilize economies, control food supplies, and cause massive human migrations." This is the U.S. Senate Committee on Ocean and Atmosphere, 1978. Dr. Edward Teller, father of the hydrogen bomb, quipped one time, "We could control the climate, but we must do it openly with global participation. If done in secret, it becomes a weapon." This was his presentation at Lawrence Livermore in 1997. In a U.S. Air Force official document, quote, "Weather modification offers the warfighter a wide range of options to defeat or coerce an adversary." This is from the Air Force document, "Weather as a Force Multiplier, Owning the Weather in 2025. John F. Kennedy said, "We shall propose further cooperative efforts between all the nations in weather prediction and eventually in weather control." This was an address to the United Nations in 1961. Weird Al Gore, vice president, said, remember him? "Geoengineering," he said, "is no longer a science fiction concept. It is a potential tool for global climate management." This is at the World Economic Forum, a panel in 2015. Senator Claiborne Pell, the chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, said, quote, "The military has spent billions on weather modification research. Most of it remains classified." This was an interview in 1976. Dr. Rosalie Bertell, epidemiologist, quote, "Weather modification is not a conspiracy. It is the biggest unregulated environmental experiment ever conducted." In a UNESCO scientific report, 1983, quote, "The ability to change the weather will alter geopolitics forever. It raises moral questions that no nation is prepared to answer." My friends, it lays the predicate and the foundation for the development of weather satellites that will permit man to determine the cloud layer and ultimately to control the weather. And he who controls the weather will control the world. Johnson said it. Not a blogger, not some fringe theorist. A president of the United States telling you directly that weather control is power. So let's just start right there. Welcome to a subject that I have been talking about forever. And it's not bad news, it's reality. And I tell you this, not because I'm some doomsayer, but because sugarcoating reality is exactly how we arrived at this mess in the first place. That glow, that light at the end of the tunnel, remember this one? Isn't salvation. It might be a gorilla with a flashlight. Or it looks more like an oncoming train. I don't know. So listen to me very, very carefully. Our skies no longer look like the skies we grew up with. Formerly deep blue, now a smeared, gauzy, dirty veil from horizon to horizon, with streaks of spray from planes, and people convinced it's condensation. They think it's water vapor. Long spreading lines that that do not behave like ordinary jet condensation. You see grid patterns, octothorpes, crisscross dispersions, a permanent milky overcast. We are told it is normal. We are told to stop asking questions, yet patents for atmospheric spraying exist. Governments openly discuss solar radiation management without any hesitation whatsoever. International bodies invent new cloud categories to account for man-made trails, so that's a beaut. And at the same time, everything beneath those skies is getting sick. Soils are depleted. Forests are dying back. Crops are failing. Insects are vanishing. Oceans are acidifying. Ice is collapsing years and decades ahead of official projections. We are told this is just climate change, a gentle curve on a graph. The more honest term is abrupt climate collapse. I am not saying every headline about dimming the sun or blocking the light is accurate. I am saying that the conversation is always framed as a future option, a theoretical plan, never as something that's already happening at scale. Meanwhile, measurements show microplastics, heavy metals, and strange polymers in rain and snow and air samples all around the world. Lab work suggests even that tiny plastic fragments and other particles lodge in arteries and organs and accelerate atherosclerosis and damage cells that keep blood vessels healthy. You've seen it. It's axiomatic at this point. Yet the reports talk about packaging and clothing, but they never mention the sky overhead. Why is that? Now, at the same time, we see methane surging, methane bubbling out of thawing permafrost and seafloor deposits. Methane that traps heat far more effectively than carbon dioxide ever did over short time frames. We see reports that the Arctic could have ice-free summers, not in 2100, but in the 2030s, then the 2020s, now as early as 2027. Every revision moves the catastrophe closer. With that loss of reflective ice, the planet heats faster. Oceans destabilize, and formerly frozen carbon stores erupt into the atmosphere. That is a feedback loop, not a talking point. Listen. What is the response from leaders? Conferences, acronyms, press releases, climate summits sponsored by oil states and attended by thousands of fossil lobbyists who arrive on private jets to discuss reducing emissions. And at the same time, trillions of dollars are still sunk into drilling, into shipping, into war machines that run on carbon and fight over carbon. And behind the scenes, there are quiet programs, research projects, military contracts, and weather modification efforts that are rarely mentioned in polite public. The word geoengineering appears in academic journals and then disappears from nightly news. You may hear it sometimes as chemtrails, a term we never use. That's the conspiracy theory term, geoengineering. Look it up, Google it. As the planet heats, power centers tighten their grip. We are living through a period where basic rights and norms are eroding. Surveillance grows, censorship expands, emergency narratives never seem to end, and former intel officials warn that the United States is drifting toward a system where elections continue, yet real power is consolidated in fewer and fewer hands. It's called competitive authoritarianism, the trappings of democracy without the substance. Now add to this the rise of artificial intelligence, and you can see the outline of the next phase. Data centers that consume staggering amounts of electricity and water. Old nuclear plants slated for retirement suddenly revived in the name of clean energy to feed AI systems and cloud infrastructure for megacorporations. Decisions that will leave radioactive legacies for generations are being made so that servers can continue to to hum and algorithms can continue to learn. My friend, while all of this unfolds, the public is kept busy. Political theater on every channel, outrage cycles about social media posts and trivial scandals, distractions about cereal dyes and cartoon brands, while far larger issues are literally falling from the sky. A population that does not understand its environment cannot defend itself. A population that is not told the truth about the state of its climate, its food, its water, and its health has been disarmed without a shot. Look, I'm not the doomsayer. I'm not selling hopelessness. I'm not the Cassandra. Quite the opposite. There is a form of hope that is honest. And it begins while refusing to go quietly, refusing to pretend that everything is fine, that someone else will fix it, that some future technology will swoop in at the last moment and make it all go away. That is not hope. That's anesthesia. Real hope looks like this. You decide that you will no longer participate in the lie. You decide you will speak about what you see with your own eyes in the sky. You decide to ask hard questions of officials, of media, of institutions that claim to act in your name. You decide that the atmosphere, the food supply, the oceans, and the children who will inherit them are more important than the comfort of staying silent. My fellow patriot, we do not choose to be alive at this moment in history, yet here we are. We are watching the convergence, the concatenation of ecological collapse, technological overreach, and political control. That is beyond frightening. It's also clarifying. It strips away the trivia. It reveals what actually matters. You see, the choice between us and before us is not between optimism and pessimism. It's between denial and engagement, between drifting with the tide or planting our feet and saying, this far and no farther, no further. There is dignity in that. There is purpose in that. And there is still time for that to matter. Now, I cannot compromise on my beliefs, and I can't promise a happy ending. No one can. What I can say is this. If enough of us find the courage to face reality as it is, not as we wish it to be, but as it is, then new possibilities appear. Exposing hidden programs, resisting reckless experiments, demanding transparency, protecting what can still be protected. That is work worth doing, no matter how late it seems or no matter how late the hour. We are not powerless, despite what they say. We have a will that no government and no corporation can take from us. Use it, speak it, live it. Refuse to go silently into the dimming of the sky, your sky, our sky. And above all, make every single day count. And more importantly, just open your eyes. Open your eyes, open your heart, open your mind. Read, learn, pay attention. That's all. And like this video. Subscribe to this channel. Hit that little bell so you're notified of live streams and new videos. And thank you for this. And most importantly, subscribe. Subscribe because incredibly, for reasons I do not understand, and this amazes me, about 70 or 80% of the people who watch our videos don't subscribe. Help us. And at the end of this, go to the comment section. I have some questions for you to answer. I want to see what you think. Comment now. And comment as you see fit.